Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring a scenario that literally shatters our reality. We build our cities and we plan our entire lives around this quiet comfort that the ground beneath our feet is completely solid and perfectly still. But that stillness, it's actually a complete illusion.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right now, at this very moment, the Earth is spinning. If you happen to be standing near the equator, that perfectly still ground beneath you is actually moving at roughly 1,670 kilometers per hour. To put that into perspective, that is faster than a commercial airliner. You feel absolutely none of it, of course, because your house, the oceans, and that quiet glass of water sitting on your desk are all moving right along with it.
But this brings us to the ultimate hypothetical question we're tackling today. What if the Earth suddenly stops spinning? And just to be completely clear, we're not talking about a gradual slowing down over millions of years like a toy top eventually losing its momentum. No, we mean a sudden, instantaneous stop, the whole shebang, all at once. No warning, no countdown, and absolutely no second chances.
To really grasp the physics here, just picture being in a car when the driver slams hard on the brakes. The car stops, but your body wants to keep hurling forward, right? Thank goodness your seatbelt catches you. We'll scale that up to an entire planet. The bedrock stops instantly, but the air and the oceans, they absolutely do not. Basically, anything not anchored deep into the Earth's crust would instantly sweep eastward at supersonic speeds, driven entirely by sheer planetary inertia.
In those first catastrophic minutes, our normal intuition just completely fails us. At T0, the ground locks into place, but by T+1 second, the atmosphere literally becomes a weapon. We're talking every hurricane and jet stream rolled into a massive supersonic force, scouring whole cities and forests right off the map. And by T+1 minute, global megatsunamis are triggered. You see, at a planetary scale, a sudden stop is not a calm rest. It is an unimaginable impact.
Think of it like walking while carrying a totally full bucket of water and then stopping dead in your tracks. The water violently splashes right over the rim. This brilliantly illustrates the ocean's stubborn momentum. The Earth is just a bucket over 12,000 kilometers wide, and billions of tons of water would surge eastward in a chained series of violent impacts. Low-lying megacities like Mumbai, Shanghai, Jakarta, Miami, and Lagos wouldn't just flood, they would be instantly erased.
Let that sink in for a second. Geography becomes destiny. In those first apocalyptic hours, surviving that initial brutal sideways jolt depends almost entirely on where you happen to be standing. If you're near the poles, the sideways velocity from the Earth's rotation is vastly lower. Now, you would still face violent winds and freezing cold, for sure, but you'd have a significantly better chance of surviving that initial impact than someone living in Singapore or the Amazon basin.
Let's move on and see how this builds, because the catastrophe definitely doesn't end with that initial impact. The Earth itself would actually begin to change shape. Our spinning planet isn't a perfect sphere. It kind of bulges at the equator because of centrifugal force, sort of like a pizza maker spinning dough in the air to spread it out. The very moment that rotation halts, that outward force totally vanishes. The crust would undergo massive tectonic readjustments, triggering global earthquakes, and crucially, the oceans would begin to migrate.
Without the planetary spin holding water around the middle, gravity would relentlessly pull the oceans toward the poles. This triggers a staggering long-term geological shift. Vast areas around the equator would suddenly emerge as this single, barren supercontinent. Meanwhile, the polar regions would drown beneath enormous, deep oceans. Those classroom maps we all grew up with, completely obsolete, and entire marine ecosystems would completely collapse.
But you know what? Perhaps the most haunting change wouldn't even be the water or the wind. It would be time itself. Because the Earth would stop rotating but actually continue orbiting the sun, our normal 24-hour cycle is obliterated. Time would feel fundamentally different. A single day would take a full year to complete. You'd experience 6 months of punishing continuous daylight, followed by 6 months of freezing absolute darkness. Just one sunrise and one sunset every single year.
Under those harsh conditions, everyday life is totally turned upside down. Agriculture as we know it would suffer a total collapse. You simply cannot grow wheat or rice under 6 months of glaring sun, followed by 6 months of deep frost. Humanity would have to painstakingly rebuild farms underground with artificial lighting. Meanwhile, the human body, which is tied so deeply to the daily rhythm of light, would suffer severe circadian disruption, leading to massive mental health crises. We'd literally be living under a sky that no longer cares about our biology.
So the crucial point is separating the actual physics here from the Hollywood myths. Let's do some quick myth busting. First up, gravity would absolutely not disappear. It comes from the Earth's mass, not its spin. You aren't going to float away. Second, the atmosphere wouldn't fly off into space. It's also held tightly by that same gravity. The danger is the air moving, not escaping. And third, our protective magnetic field wouldn't just switch off instantly like a light bulb.
Speaking of that magnetic field, it's actually generated by what we call the geodynamo, which is driven by convection and heat flow in the Earth's liquid outer core. While stopping the Earth's rotation wouldn't erase this magnetic shield in a single split second, the disruption to the geodynamo would degrade it over time. This creates a slow-burn vulnerability to cosmic and solar radiation. So the atmospheric winds and oceans are your immediate killers. The magnetic field's decay is the slow looming threat. As our source material beautifully puts it, surviving this scenario would be like watching civilization wake up on another planet. But hey, humanity has a stubborn, almost terrifying adaptability. Future survivors might retreat to high-latitude bunkers or submarine infrastructure. Over generations, we might even become planetary migrants, constantly moving just to chase the slow-moving bands of spring around the globe.
Getting to that point, though, means paying a tremendous price in grief. It's not just about the geology or the insane weather. It's about the collapse of our most basic assumptions. Airport schedules, international shipping routes, delicate power grids, harvest calendars, even religions that mark time by dawn and dusk, wiped out in an instant. The ordinary, comforting promise that tomorrow will look roughly like today would be completely gone.
This entire thought experiment really acts as a mirror for us. It reminds us that stillness is just a matter of perspective. Think about being asleep on an airplane, crossing a continent, or a child riding on a merry-go-round. You only feel the force when something violently changes, when it speeds up, slows down, or abruptly stops. Life on Earth is exactly like that. We are hurtling through space right now, but we only notice the motion when we imagine a disruption.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how it exposes our absolute unyielding dependence on delicate, non-negotiable balances. A predictable rotation, steady gravity, a protective atmosphere, a magnetic shield, liquid water. We call these things natural, which kind of makes them sound ordinary, right? But they aren't ordinary at all. They are miracles. And they're so consistent and so incredibly stable that we simply grew bored of them.
Which brings us to our final thought. The Earth has been spinning reliably for 4.5 billion years, quietly allowing every sunrise, every empire, and every single morning cup of coffee to exist without asking anything of us in return. So I want to leave you with this. The next time the sun sets and rises again, it might just feel routine. But what if routine, on a crazy spinning rock like this, is actually a kind of wonder?